Good morning, Kenya. It is Tuesday, February 4th, the fourth day of 2025. Now, the program on air is The Morning Momentum, and this is a daily compendium of local and international news, human interest stories, current affairs, and expert opinion. My name is Alfonsoh. Ouma. Use the hashtag The Morning Momentum at Younib Media TV at Alfonsoh Albakwekwe. Let's take a look at the top stories making the headlines on the papers this morning. We start with the Daily Nation. The top story is Inside Ruto'S Policy U-turns. Now, some of the setbacks faced by President Ruto's administration include the Higher Education's Loan Board, where state has resorted to help to release upkeep cash to students to avert a crisis after a new funding model was blocked by the courts. The other setback is in the Social Health Authority, where hospitals had to revert to the defunct NHIF system and even go manual to process claims until a new system provider was brought on board. Number 3 is the e-citizen, where officials have struggled to enforce the single payment platform for government services because of delays to verify payments. You want to catch up with all this on page 4. So all these have been reversed based on the fact that they have been faced with the dilemma of nationwide public university student strike and compliance with a court order. The government has now reverted to the old funding model to send money to learners, adding to a growing list of shifts back to the old order in what is becoming a trend for the Kenya Kwanza regime whenever changes it seeks to implement run into headwinds. All that is beefed up for you on page 4. Now, also on page 35 this morning, party after party, Ghana's eye Reds scalp after city job. You will take a look at that on the cover page. Now, on page 10 of the Daily Nation this morning, Mbadi, fierce critic turned defender of quote-unquote Ruto'Nomics. Now, before he was poached from the opposition and made Treasury CS in August, John Mbadi did not spare Kenya Kwanza's economic policies that he believed were bad for Kenya. That story is beefed up for you on page 10. On page 8 this morning, Tanzania to host joint EAC SADC summit. Move signals a new step to try and find common ground on the crisis caused by war between M23 rebels and the Congolese army. That story is beefed up for you on page 8. On page 3 of the Daily Nation this morning, how Shabab abducted 5 chiefs in Mandera. Now, what was supposed to be a routine exercise to screen applicants seeking national identity cards has turned into a major security scare after the administrators were seized and driven towards Somalia. That story is beefed up for you on page 3. Let's get up close and candid with the Daily Nation now. On page 2, 5 suspects in Molo president murder case to be held for 21 days. Now, detectives say the suspects were placed at the same location on the day of attack. Magistrate agrees with prosecution that the police require more time to conclude investigations. That story is beefed up for you on page 2. Still on matters crime, Cohen keen opposes widow's release. Now, the family of the late Dutch tycoon Tob Cohen wants the High Court to stop his widow Sarah Wairimu from residing in their house since it is a scene of crime. Opposing the release of Ms. Wairimu on bond, Director of Public Prosecutions Renson Igonga and Cohen family lawyer Perlin Omamo yesterday said it would be a miscarriage of justice for the widow to continue living in the same house where his body was discovered. That story is beefed up for you on page 2. On page 3 this morning, how Mandera chiefs were abducted by suspected Al-Shabaab gunmen. Now, Kenya Defense Forces said to be leading team to search for and rescue the chiefs. Administrators were heading back to Elwak to help with screening of applicants for national identity cards. This is a function that was happening ahead of President Ruto's visit to the northeastern region, and sources say that the initial plans of having the president visit the region will still take place regardless of the situation at hand at the moment. Now, on page 4 of the Daily Nation this morning, varsity funding U-turn, latest Ruto policy shift. Now, help disbursed money for university students upkeep to avert a crisis as it awaits decision on appeal. Higher Education Loans Board reverts to old funding model to send upkeep cash to university students as state again goes back to the old order after changes ran into headwinds. HELB disbursed money for the university student upkeep to avert crisis as it awaits decision on appeal. That story is beefed up for you on page 4. Let's take a quick look at page 5. Kulo to get jobs as all allegations dismissed. Now, Tribunal says most of the accusations against the Environment and Land Court judge were not proved. Court of Appeal Judge Kiage presents his team's report to President Ruto for action, and that story is beefed up for you on page 5 of the Daily Nation this morning. Moving on swiftly to page 6, TSC transfers senior officers in shake-up. Now, Commission's CEO is set to leave at the end of June when her second 5-year term comes to an end. Teachers' employer has promoted officials to replace those who have retired. That story is beefed up for you on page 6. At a glance, teachers' employer to get new boss in July. Now, the Teachers Service Commission Chief Executive Officer Nancy Macharia is set to retire on June 30th upon the expiry of her second 5-year term at the helm. It is expected that her position will be advertised before then to pave the way for recruitment of her replacement. That story is beefed up for you on page 6 of the Daily Nation this morning. Let's move on swiftly and take a look at page 7. Technical University of Kenya closed indefinitely after employees strike. Now, the public universities have been facing serious funding shortfalls. University closed after lecturers failed to administer examinations that were to start yesterday. You want to catch up with more of that on page 7. On page 7 still, I'll end missing marks menace. Moi University acting vice chancellor vows. Now, newly named Moi University Acting Vice Chancellor Kiplagat Kotut has assured residents that rampant cases of missing marks, which have been a big headache at the institution, will be a thing of the past. Addressing the Moi University community yesterday, Professor Kotut said he was out to restore the institution's lost glory. You want to catch up with that on page 8. We wish them all the best on page 9 this morning. Tanzania to host joint SADC-EAC summit on Congo crisis. A war has erupted between the M23 rebels and the Congolese army, resulting in a crisis in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Ramaphosa of South Africa, Museveni of Uganda, and Mohamud of Somalia have confirmed their participation in that meeting. You will catch up with more of those insights on page 8. Now, let's take a quick look at page 10 this morning. Mbadi, from Ruto'S fierce critique to being a right-hand man. As an MP, he accused the government of extorting money from employees. CS now says he has to talk about the positives and defend the revenue-raising measures. John Mbadi, once a fierce critic of William Ruto, is now the president's right-hand man, defending his policies both in private and in public. Before he was poached from the opposition and made the National Treasury Cabinet Secretary in August last year, Mr. Mbadi did not spare Kenya Kwanza's economic policies that he believed were bad for Kenyans. Quite ironical right there. That story is beefed up for you on page 10. Let's move on and take a look at page 12. I am not here to cover up for police, says a new spokesperson. Police boss says any officer engaging in unlawful actions will be prosecuted individually. Michael Mushiri says rebuilding the trust of the public in the police service is the top priority for him. More of that insights are beefed up for you on page 12 this morning. Let's take a quick look at the statistics at a glance. Muchiri's previous postings. In 1991, he enrolled at the Kenya Police Training College in Kiganjo. He was then posted to the Kenya Airport Police Unit as police constable at the Wilson Airport in Nairobi. Quick fast, in 1999, he was promoted to the rank of inspector and deployed to the airport as deputy OCS. He had a short stint at Kenya Railways where he served until 2007 when he was again promoted to the rank of the superintendent. Quick fast, in 2007, he was posted as an instructor at the Kenya Police College in Kiganjo in the senior trial wing. In 2014, he was moved to the Marsabit County and named the deputy county commander. Quick fast, in 2018, he was named Kilimani police commander and served in a similar position in Kiambaa and Kangundo. That story is beefed up for you on page 12. He says this morning his priority is going to be restoring the public trust between the police and the citizens. On page 13 this morning, Babu protests to Suluhu after he was denied entry at the airport. Lawmaker alleges that he was arrested and even detained briefly. Embakasi East MP says he was told he was persona non grata in the country. That story is beefed up for you on page 13. Let's move on quickly and take a look at the expert opinion on page 16. Kenya needs plan B in case it loses critical foreign support. Now, over-reliance on aid can discourage self-sufficiency by creating dependency mindset in the government. You want to catch up with that on page 16. Today on the DN2 article, it's all about powering the SMEs. Kenyan swimmer brand is promoting cultural pride and modesty. That story is beefed up for you on the DN2 article of today's Daily Nation. Let's shift gears and take a look at the international community. YouTube exemption in ban poses risks, as experts say. Now, video sharing site was exempted for educational content. Australia last year passed strict law banning social media users for minors. Now, in DR Congo's displaced fear violence, rape if they return home. Widow Francine and her 3 children have little to eat and sleep on the hard ground. But like many others at a makeshift displacement center in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, she is scared to return home. Briefly, in Moscow, Saudi and United Arab Emirates possible venues for Trump-Putin summit. Now, Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates are seen by Russia as possible venues for summit between United States President Donald Trump and Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin. 2 Russian sources with knowledge of the discussions told Reuters. Trump has said he will end the war in Ukraine as soon as possible, and he said he is ready to meet with Putin. In the Vatican City, Pope decries deaths of children in global conflicts. Now, Pope Francis on Monday decried the deaths of children in global conflicts, telling a Vatican summit that nothing is worth the life of a child. Francis, who has been critical of both Israel's military campaign in Gaza and the Russia-Ukraine war, did not specify a conflict in his remarks. That story is beefed up for you on the international news on page 22. Business news. Mobile money transactions rebound to hit 8.7 trillion shillings. Growth signals increasing popularity of the platforms. CA attributed growth to Airtel, allowing users to receive money cross platforms. Key figure stands at 790 billion Kenya shillings that has been handled by the agents in February alone. You want to catch up with that on page 23. Let's take a quick look at what we have in the world of sports this morning. Now, in matters infrastructure, fury over plan to turn Kipkeino into a market. The Kapsabet facility, which has been closed since 2016, is to be demolished. Nandi County government plans to construct 420 million shillings market where the stadium sits. Now, on page 34, Gor's new coach unfazed by weight of expectations on him. Kenya Police FC lead local league standing on 31 points from 18 matches, and Tusker comes third. I'll make you proud and great again, the Croatian national tells the club's fans as he takes over the job. That story is beefed up for you on page 34. Also, Kenyan teams earned 30 million shillings from sale of players last year. Kenya trails countries in the region and those from North Africa in terms of revenue. The country's football teams earned from sale of players to the other countries. A report by World Football Governing Body FIFA has shown. That story is beefed up for you on page 34. On page 35 this morning, party after party. Ghana's eye Reds scalp after City job. Midfielder Rice says Arsenal are determined to hunt down Premiership leaders Liverpool. Liverpool stays 6 points ahead of second-placed Arsenal after weekend's matches. We wish all the best to the Gunners. Let's take a look at the cover page of the Daily Nation this morning. Ruto Task Force reveals big mess at Afya House. Now, two PSS for medical service and public health hardly talk to each other. It's total civil war. It's like Rwanda and DRC Congo, Task Force says, of working relationships. Now, multiplicity of laws, regulatory authorities, and lack of proper data has created a big mess at the Ministry of Health. The Presidential Task Force on Human Resources for Health, HRH, told MPs. Task Force Chairperson Kama Rogo yesterday told the National Assembly's Committee on Health that the ministry has many conflicting policy documents. That story is beefed up for you on the cover page. Lastly, as we conclude, choose one side. MPs train guns on public hospital medics in private practice. Kenya's public health care says team is being crippled by medical professionals who prioritize their private practices while drawing salaries from taxpayer-funded hospitals, MPs warned during a heated health committee session yesterday. Now, level 5 and level 6 hospitals are only found in Nairobi and Kiambu, says Moyale MP Jaldesa Guyo. Now, with that rift on medical practitioners, we come to today's end of the Morning Momentum. Thank you so much for keeping us company and for always choosing Younib TV, the best youth television network in East and Central Africa. You have been watching the Morning Momentum. I have been your host, Alfonsoh Ouma. See you again tomorrow, same time, same place. Until then, do have a beautiful Tuesday ahead of you.